bringing you the latest news from Liberty Athletics. This is the Patriot Fan Zone podcast from 100.7 The Score.
Welcome back in. We're going to transition into the Patriot Fan Zone, but I want to get this out of the way before we do that. I keep promising I'm going to finish up these ranking thing. I mentioned Estacado is number 3 in 4A in the TABC preseason poll. Liberty Patriots should be in there. They're not. Somebody at TBHBC is going to hear this and just going to call and blister me because I've said that 3 times now. In the private school rankings, this is where you'll find a few Lubbock teams. In Class 5A, in basketball they call it 5A, Lubbock Christian starts the season ranked number 3, which had a great season last year and really fortified things, including with that's another Cooper. Jason Cooper's son, as I mentioned, John Cooper, transferred in from Olton. In 4A, Lubbock Christian is also number 3, which they have played in the last 3 state championship games and have a lot of guys back, so that makes sense. Class 2A, All Saints Episcopal, new coach Brodney Kennard. They don't have a ton of guys back, but a lot of tradition there, so a lot of Lubbock representation there. Unfortunately, only one in the public schools. We're going to leave it at that. I want to make sure Parker knows that I'm singing their praise. I don't understand why your guys aren't ranked, seriously.
Oh, you know what? Coach Hicks is a lot like I am.
Yes.
I would prefer to fly under the radar just as much as we can, and because really the rankings only matter at the end of the year.
You're right. You know Tony Wagner, right?
Yeah.
Somebody told him about the rankings, and he posts on Facebook, I don't care about the rankings right now. I care about them when we get to you, and that's absolutely right.
Nope. That's the only time that it matters is at the end of the year.
Now, Garrett, you can speak as a player. It's kind of cool when people know that you're out there and pretty good. What I told somebody, though, Joe, and we've talked about this, I think you guys still get lumped in with Lubbock Cooper.
Yeah.
People probably don't realize that there's a separate entity, and Memorial's going to deal with that for a little while too. So, but Garrett, I believe you guys were ranked at times in baseball.
Yes, sir, we were.
And you were ranked on number 9 a few weeks ago in football. So it's as a player, do you pay much attention to that, or do you just kind of shrug it off?
You know, it's always cool to see your school up there and know that you're representing one of the top teams in the state. But if we can't just set our eyes on a ranking, we need to go out each week and compete and beat who's on our schedule.
I did cover a college baseball coach who wants to put it in this. He said it's a lot better to be ranked than to never come close to being ranked. So at least people know what you're doing. You guys had caught some attention, Joe, before you got ranked. You lost that game on the road. I think you probably caught some more attention here this last week. Went up to Perryton, which Garrett said he may locate there with his family someday.
Yeah, I don't see that happening.
I don't either.
56-14, and we talked last week. That's a good Perryton team. That's not – you didn't go up there and beat somebody that wasn't good. They came in 3-3, but their schedule, they had competed well, had some guys back from last year, and you guys had a really good game with.
Right.
I'm going to guess you're pretty proud of how your guys bounced back.
Yeah, we were very proud because those guys throw and catch the football about as well as anybody that we've seen. That quarterback has a great arm and made some great reads and made some great throws, and you know, it's just kind of hard to sustain that type of offense all the way down the field. I thought we did a really good job at shutting down the run. Really couldn't run the ball that much, so they ended up having to throw it quite a bit, and all of our linebackers and defensive line, played really well, and so yes, I was very excited. The first play from scrimmage, we go 81 yards for a touchdown, and that's always a great way to get things started. But the main thing that we were looking for was just to get off the bus, because that's part of the problem going that far is you just never know how we're going to get off the bus. And pregame, it's kind of like our normal pregame. If you watched us during pregame, you're probably going to think, man, those guys aren't very energetic. But when it comes time to kick the ball off, it's they flip the switch and here we go.
That's part of being an old team, which is weird to say that to you after 3 years, but you are an old team.
Yeah, we haven't said that very much.
No, but I think it's probably fair to say that now because you're not all of your guys, but most of your guys have been around now on that level for 3 years.
Right.
Garrett, Coach talked about the trip, and I think I asked Eric Ward this, if he'd ever been on a longer road trip, because Estacado went up there last year. Now, Perryton's got to come down here Thursday to play the Matadors.
Yeah, that's going to be a fun game to watch.
Yes, it will. I know you're a summer baseball guy, so you've probably been on some trips to get to somewhere and play a bunch of games. But for one game on one night, had you ever been on a trip like that?
When I was at Trinity, we had to make a lot of trips to Dallas.
That's true.
But no, never same day. Not really. It's that trip to Perryton was just as long, honestly, and getting off the bus the same day and playing, that was really difficult. But the team did a great job this week of coming out energetic. So
just wait till you get to be coaching age. You got to stop a few times to make sure your joints and limbs still work.
But we did that too. There's always a couple of guys. I'm watching them in the mirror, looking at the back of the bus, and you can tell, all right, it's probably time to stop. So
yep, exactly. You talked a lot about the defense. I want to throw this number out here: 418 yards rushing, and I may be wrong. It looks like you had all your ponies back in the backfield this week.
Yes, we had all of our running backs healthy, and it was really a big deal to get Talon back this week.
Yes.
He was chomping at the bit, ready to go, and he probably wanted more snaps. But that first game back, you hate to just throw him out there to the wolves and say, all right, go, go, go. So I think probably his first touch was a touchdown also. So he's back. Colin's back. And Caden, he's getting better with his issues. So yeah, we had them all back there ready to roll.
So in all fairness, I showed a picture of you looking intense the other day. Well, my photographer up there got a picture of Talon. You can tell that he was pretty happy to be back.
He was. He's been like a cage lion the last few weeks, not being able to go. A couple games he suited up and tried to go through pregame, and it just killed him not to be able to go, because he is the ultimate competitor. He just wants to go and compete, and he really hard on himself. He felt bad, like he was letting us down. I'm like, you're not. You just got to get well, and I'm just really happy for him being able to get out there and go.
I hate it when high school kids get hurt in their senior season, because that shelf life is shrinking up on them. So we're going to talk more about the Patriots. They have to switch gears. They're back home this week against Borger, 7 p.m. Friday. We'll talk more about that when we come back in the Patriot Fan Zone on 100.7 The Score.
Diving headfirst into Liberty Athletics. You're listening to the Patriot Fan Zone on 100.7 The Score and the 100.7 The Score mobile app.
Welcome back into the High School Fan Zone. We are in the Patriot Fan Zone to wrap up this second Monday of October. I want to run through this week's schedule real quick. Thursday night, Estacado in District 5 4A Division 2 is at home against Perryton. We just mentioned that at 7 p.m. at Lowry Fields, down the radio dial a little bit with Nick Long. Matadors won their district opener against Levelland 20-13 last week. Perryton, as I mentioned, lost to Liberty, made them drive all the way up there, so the Patriots took it out on them a little bit. Friday night, District 2-6A, Friendships at home for the first time in district play. They play Midland Legacy at 7:30 p.m. Tigers went down to Midland and beat Midland High 42-31 last week. That game will be on Double T 97.3 FM. Coronado's on the road at Caprock. Mustangs are still looking for their first win of the season. That is on 96.9 The Bull. Lubbock High goes on the road to take on Abilene High. That's down the radio dial with Rob Burrow on the call. Westerners have won a game, but they move the ball. They have very little trouble moving the ball. Can they slow down Abilene High enough? Monterey is at home Friday, 7 p.m. against Tascosa. That's the HubCityPreps.com game of the week. Plainsmen have won, I believe, 3 in a row. They are climbing back into contention in district just like they did last year. Tascosa is one of the teams tied for the lead. That will be on, let me make sure I get it right here, 93.7 The Eagle. Lubbock Cooper is at home against Palo Duro, 7 p.m. Friday at Pirate Stadium. Lubbock Cooper's coming off of a very tough night at Abilene Cooper. And I promised a minute ago I wouldn't say the score again. I promised Chip Darden I won't repeat that score again. They got beat, let's just put it that way. So they are looking to bounce back. Plainview is at home against Abilene Cooper, 7 p.m. Friday at Sherwood Memorial Stadium. The Liberty Patriots are at home against Borger, 7 p.m. I'm looking forward to talking and get these guys' thoughts about that because that's the whole redemption tour thing. This game is a pretty prominent part of that. 7 p.m. Friday at Patriot Stadium. That is on 93.1 Young Country. Trinity Christian is at home against Fort Worth All Saints, which if they're not ranked number 1 in TAPS 5A, they're up there somewhere. That's one of the best programs in the private school ranks in Texas. Kingdom Prep and Christ the King play each other over at Christ the King's Field at 5 p.m. Friday. That is the schedule for this week. So, Joe, I mentioned Borger. And you guys, there were games last year you were in them, competitive. You could look back at and say, this is one where if we do this, this, and this. For whatever reason, Borger was not one of those. That was that long road trip last year.
Right.
And when I typed in the score from last year the other day, it still stunned me.
Yeah.
It was 54 to 23.
Yeah, it was an odd night. You know, there was just an odd vibe when we were there, and that was just one of those games that we didn't get off the bus.
Yep.
And I don't know how many times in practice in the last few weeks we've talked about on these long trips, we just got to get off, and we got to get off with the right mindset and mentality. And it's so far, you know, even at Greenwood, I thought we were ready to go. So, but again, last week at Perryton, super. You know, just the way we responded with everything. You know, our meal prep, you know, getting ready, our pregame meal was different. So it was there was a lot of different stuff that went on last Friday, but they handled it well.
Garrett, as players, you get a lot of credit for that. We talked about how many older guys you have. You guys have been through this, but having those coaches that you've had, how much credit do they get for keeping you guys on that even keel all season, but especially on a night like last week where you're coming off a loss and there were some difficult hurdles?
I think they deserve all the credit, honestly. You know, Coach Sexton said he'd been preaching it, and yeah, he definitely had, especially since Fort Stockton. Every week, you know, we've been on this road trip stretch, but he's been preaching it every week, get off the bus and be ready to play, so I think he deserves all the credit.
And this
no, you guys got to play the game.
That's true. The Jimmies and Joes have to go and take care of business. I mentioned the whole redemption thing. You guys have crossed a lot of things off your list. Is this one a pretty big one for you, Garrett, this week?
I mean, obviously their record doesn't show it, but that doesn't mean anything to us. We still got to go win a football game on Friday night, and yes, sir, it's a huge one because it's a district matchup, and we're competing for a gold ball. And
I'll say it again, in your district, every win gets you a little bit closer to that. A little quicker than some of the bigger districts. We have one more segment of the Patriot Fan Zone. We'll be back after this break on 100.7 The Score.
Your inside look into Liberty sports. This is the Patriot Fan Zone on 100.7 The Score and the 100.7 The Score mobile app.
Welcome back in. This is the final segment of a Monday night high school fan zone. We are talking Liberty Patriot football. But I want to jump over here a little bit. Your volleyball team is still ranked number 1. They officially or technically clinched a playoff spot. I think they probably have.
Yes.
It's fair to say. Estacado tomorrow, and then the very first senior day in Liberty history.
Yes. Yeah,
Saturday.
Against Lakeview.
I've been teasing Caitlin about that for a few years. I keep asking her, what's senior night going to be like? And she just, I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to think about it now.
It's here.
Wait, and not just Caitlin. What's that going to be like for you? Because you're Papa Bear out there to a lot of those coaches.
You know, it's going to be hard. We've had these guys since day one, and it's going to be tough. It'll be hard on me a little bit in pregame, and it's just so much fun to see them, grow up and how they've played this year, and and it's not just football. It's baseball, basketball, across the board. It's been a heck of a ride so far.
Garrett, when the coaches care that way and they've invested in you, what's that tell you about playing for them for these last couple of years for you guys?
It just makes me think how lucky I am to have such great coaches, honestly.
Coach Kello's going to have to deal with that here pretty quick too, and he's a lot like Caitlin, where took you guys pretty far that first year, a little bit earlier exit last year. So this last year is going to be, when you get to baseball season, there's going to be a lot of, baseball's a little bit different. There's not quite as much emotion on a given night, but that senior night at the baseball field is going to be, that's going to tug at some heartstrings too.
Yes, sir. Hopefully we get a lot longer run after that game, but it definitely will be pretty difficult for all of us.
Joe, we've talked a little bit about what happened last year against Borger, and Garrett kind of alluded to this. They come in 0-6, which can be kind of scary when you get to this point of the season that they're going to figure out something. They're going to put something together one night and get things going. So what do you guys have to be ready for when they come out?
Well, today when we talked, I don't think any of our coaches talked about their record. It's just it's a game, and we're going to prepare like they're 6-0, and that was on purpose. We didn't want to talk about anything that's happened with them in the past, and we just prepared today like we have, for the last 8 weeks. And so, like you were saying, we didn't play very good last year up there, so I'm expecting us to come out for one. It's homecoming, and we'll be ready to roll.
You guys still don't have anybody coming home though.
I know. I've had lots of people ask me that, like, why in the world are y'all having homecoming games when you don't even have any graduates yet? And I said, don't ask. I just do as I'm told.
I guess you could rename it, but that wouldn't do any good either. I'm just it.
No.
If it makes your folks feel better, Memorial had a homecoming game last week, and
right.
They definitely haven't had anybody leave to come home yet. So
well, you just do it and move on down the road. Yesterday, we had a group of moms that came out and decorated our locker room for us, and so we're getting ready for all the festivities. That was one of the things that we talked about this morning before we got practice started. Is there's a lot of extracurricular stuff going on this week, and we have to tune a lot of that out. And with these seniors, they've been around it for 3 years now, and I expect them to handle it just like our last 3 road trips. So
here's some old man advice. When moms say they want to come and do something, just agree.
Just let them. Yes, sir.
Just open the locker room up and let them go.
Let them go.
Oh, they did a great job too. I went in there this morning, and it looks really nice.
And I'm not going to ascribe any kind of trap game thing, because you're playing a team that you guys should beat. I think that's fair to say. I know you're friends with Max Catwinkle and Chip Darden, and both those guys, I know their big thing is we're going to tell our guys the truth. If we think we should beat them, we're going to say we should think you should beat them.
Well,
but
it's just these guys' mentality. I mean, they're going to be ready to go. It doesn't matter who we're going to play. I have complete faith that they're going to be ready to go.
The trapness to me is you guys are off the next week.
Right.
And you come back, and it's a game that's been moved to a Thursday night at Lowry Field. There's going to be TV folks. That game against Estacado, with all due respect to Levelland and La Leon, that game's going to be a big night for both teams, for the city of Lubbock. So you don't want your guys to think too much about that.
Yeah, that's the reason we hadn't talked about it yet. We've never, for the last 2.5 years, we have never – I don't think any of our coaches have ever talked about the previous week or the next week's game. Our staff is very good at focusing on the job at hand, and that's the way we're going to roll.
At least as long as you're not Bill Belichick.
That's all I have to say about that.
That's going to wrap us up on this edition of the Patriot Fan Zone and the High School Fan Zone. We'll be back tomorrow night with Monterey and Coronado. I'm Randy Rosetta. This is 100.7 The Score.